This week, I tried Brutal Half-Life version 3, and judging off the Steam charts, many of you did too. You can see the exact moment this mod dropped. If you're unaware what Brutal Half-Life does, it does exactly what it says. It dials up the gore to brutal levels, but it does more than just that. It adds a ton of updates to the gameplay, graphics, adds new guns, entirely redoing Half-Life's gun roster, and adds roughly 4 to 5 hours of new maps. Let me tell you, it is a trip to play through the Doom levels using gold source textures and gameplay. Hey everyone, Jarek here, and I've covered this mod 6 years ago, in 2018. I thought this mod was dead, but we got one last surprise at the end of the year. Speaking of, Happy New Year. If you hear explosions in the background, that's because I'm recording this at 12:02. Yeah, it is exactly New Year. This is the first thing I'm doing in 2025. Covering a Half-Life mod. Amazingly on brand, I couldn't be happier about it. Here's hoping that 2025 will be good for all of you. I'm gonna split this video into 3 different parts. General improvements, new weapons, and new maps. Starting with general improvements, I'm gonna keep this quick. I don't really want to sit here and read through patch notes. I feel like that wouldn't be very interesting, so I'll just talk about the stuff that I found amusing. There's of course small graphic improvements, like Bloom is the most notable one for me, mainly because there's so many explosions. But the best general improvement is that the game is so much more stable. The last time I played Brutal Half-Life, it crashed all the time, but this time, I only had 1 crash. And wasn't even a normal crash, it was because the game glitched out. You see, at the beginning of Half-Life 1, you now have fists. You can punch anything, and this goes exactly as you would expect. Wait, I can attack? Quick save. I mean, I soft locked myself, but I could do it. This also means that as you start the Resonance Cascade, you're able to punch all the wildlife. For some reason, this got rid of my HEV suit and gave me my regular lab coat. Not really sure why that happened, but it also made the game crash anytime the laser popped up. Oh, game crashed. I just loaded a previous save before I did that, and it worked fine. So, yeah, it's really stable now. Thank God. It was so annoying to play Brutal Half-Life before because I really wanted to, but it wouldn't stop crashing on me. They fixed one really big issue from the previous build of Brutal Half-Life, and that was how some enemies became invincible. Notoriously, the barnacles, and annoyingly, the alien controllers. I already hated these enemies, but shooting them while you were on moving platforms was impossible. Thankfully, this has totally been fixed. Aside from that, there are some new mechanics that weren't in base Half-Life. Like the ability to vault on anything. The camera jerk for when you vault on things is kind of disorienting, but it does work. The main problem I have with this is that vaulting is set to the E key, which is the same key as use. So you try to use something and then you climb on top of it. Still though, I don't really mind this, it's fine. Something people are definitely going to be mixed on is aim down sights. I myself don't really mind aim down sights being added into mods, but I know some people are going to see it as sacrilegious to add ADS to Half-Life. If you don't want ADS, I guess you can just play default Half-Life. To me, it's not a big deal. Some other new mechanics that I found really interesting in this mod is the ability to pick up and throw anything, and it has Source-style physics. Yes, you could push things around in Half-Life 1, but not quite like this. This also gives you the ability to stick heads onto your crowbar. Oh my god. What happens if I swap weapons? Does it go away? Nope. Don't look at me, I'm not the one that came up with that. But since you can pick up anything, this means you can pick up the backpacks off of Marines and loot them. If you pick up a backpack and right click, you'll get a random thing out of their backpack. It could be a medkit, could be ammo, could be a totally new gun. Now, the ability to interact with everything may seem like a small thing, but that's kind of part of Half-Life. Immersion, being able to pick up and interact with the entire world, so this is actually a much bigger deal than you may realize. There's one very funny oversight that happens with the ability to pick up anything. You see, when it comes to weapon reloads, the moment you drop that magazine, the gun is counted as reloaded. If you interrupt this, you have a very fast reload. And since you can pick up anything, including empty magazines, I've been waiting on this mod for a while. I ejected, oh my god, wait, hold up. That fully reloads. You can just cancel the reload by picking up your empty magazine. You can do this with like every gun in the game, depending on their reload animation, but it is vast majority of them. This is very funny and really abusable. All right, we got to talk about the big thing this mod adds. We got to talk about these guns. While yes, most of these weapons look like the default Half-Life weapons, they have been changed so much that this is basically an entirely new weapon roster. Take the pistol for example. This thing is significantly less accurate than the default Half-Life Glock, but now you can dual wield it, making it more of a spray and pray viable weapon. And since this mod does have ADS, you can get a little bit more accuracy by aiming. Now don't worry, this is not required. If you're used to just running around at full speed and then hip firing at everything, you can still play that way. It doesn't really change that much. This mod adds Desert Eagles, and the Desert Eagles, again, are less accurate, but you can dual wield them and you can spam them. They're accurate enough to have some range, but they're not snipers like they were in Opposing Force. And the reason for that is because you still have the revolvers, which you can also dual wield, yes! The MP5 is basically just as it was in Half-Life 1, except you can also dual wield those, because why not? And to fix the constant argument between SD models and HD models, they just added the M16. So now you can have both the MP5 and the M16. I like the solution. For those unaware, the original Half-Life had an MP5, but Gearbox released an HD pack with one of the expansions that replaced the MP5 with an M16, along with a bunch of other things, but this is the one I want to focus on. While yes, it makes more sense for the Marines to be using an M4 or an M16 than an MP5, it's not like they've never used MP5s before, and it messes with the gameplay a little bit, at least from a logical standpoint. You see, the pistol, the 9mm Glock, shared ammo with the MP5, another 9mm. But when you replace the MP5 with an M4, it still shares ammo with the pistol despite using a rifle round, and it just doesn't make any sense. This mod says, shut the hell up, stop arguing, just have both. The function of the M16 is just to be a more accurate version of the MP5, and the MP5 is now a little bit better at spray and pray up close. Basically, you have an SMG and an assault rifle. I love this. Meanwhile, the shotgun functions the same exact way, except for it has an animation and sound improvement and just sounds a lot more visceral. And this can be said about every single weapon in the game. They sound so strong, they are so satisfying to use. This, above all else, is the main reason to play Brutal Half-Life, for the brutality of it. But they also added some new weapons, like an MP40, or the Ripper from Duke Nukem, or Blood-Style Dynamite, or an aerosol can, which sucks. You'd think having a makeshift flamethrower would be pretty fun, but this thing does no damage whatsoever and takes forever to kill enemies. The split function can basically turn it into a Molotov, but it still sucks, so it's not really worth using. Meanwhile, they added a fully automatic USAS-12 shotgun, which is so overpowered. It does the same damage as the SPAS-12, except for it's fully auto. And the split function still fires 2 shells at once. Now, a rant I've been wanting to get out for a long time is every once in a while someone will laugh at Valve and say, the SPAS-12 doesn't have 2 barrels, how can it fire 2 shells at once? Those idiots, they know nothing about guns. But if you look at the animations in Half-Life 1, the pistol slide locks back on the last shot and doesn't if it's a non-empty reload, so clearly they know how guns work. Their logic is, this sounds fun, screw realism, go for it. And that's why I love Valve. It's more important to have a fun game than it is to have realism. Brutal Half-Life took the same approach, and the USAS is definitely fun. They also added the M16, which I already covered, but it kind of made me a bit sad, because my dumb brain saw the patch notes which said the M4A1 was added, but I read it as the M41A, the pulse rifle. See, I picked up the M4A1 in-game, and that looks like an M16 to me. so I didn't connect those two. Yes, I know a longer barrel and a carrying handle is not unique to an M16, but you know what I mean. Also, a pulse rifle just would have been so much cooler than an M16. I think we can all agree with that. Sci-fi weapons are way cooler than a boring M4. I'm dumb and I made myself sad. Oh, also, they added the plasma rifle from Doom, so I guess not all is lost. Speaking of, Doom maps have been added to this game. Yeah, here's where we get to talk about the new maps, and this is honestly the thing I was the most excited for. It is a trip to play through Doom levels using gold source gameplay and gold source textures. And surprisingly, it works really well. Doom aged incredibly well, who would have figured? But they also added Quake 1 and Quake 2 levels, which were probably my least favorite to be honest. They were still good, but I don't think they translated quite to gold source gameplay. It may be super weird to say since Half-Life 1 is based on the Quake engine, but the movement is quite a bit different in the two games. So the map design kind of didn't really flow. It was still really interesting to see these two games combined together. Maybe I'm just not a massive Quake fan, but I'm also not a massive Duke Nukem fan, and the Duke Nukem map worked actually pretty well. Yeah, they added a map from Duke Nukem 3D. They also randomly added in a map from Blood, probably the shortest out of all of them, but that was really amusing to see. With that said, the map that I think actually worked the best was the Soldier of Fortune map they added. This totally makes sense. They came out roughly around the same time, they look visually somewhat similar, and the whole point of Brutal Half-Life is to be brutal, which Soldier of Fortune definitely was. In fact, the gameplay of Soldier of Fortune is kind of similar to Brutal Half-Life 20-so-odd years before Brutal Half-Life was ever a thing, before Brutal Doom was ever a thing. Yeah, this map works really well, and it's no coincidence that they give you a ton of shotgun ammo. After this, they bizarrely added a Return to Castle Wolfenstein map, which really surprised me. That one felt like it came out of nowhere. That said, if you're playing these maps before the actual campaign, this is the first time you'll get the MP40, and it's effectively just an upgraded version of the MP5, which is very funny. It's more accurate and does more damage. And you can dual wield it. There's one last new level, but this new level is a secret level. You see, when you click New Game, you get thrown into this hub, where you can choose your difficulty and the level, a la Quake style. But if you look to your left, there are these crates you can destroy. And right away, I destroyed them, because it's Half-Life. There are crates, they must be destroyed. But you get a yellow keycard when you destroy them. Where do you use this keycard? I had no idea. I played this mod for 3.5 hours before I found the secret level. I was convinced it had to be over here somewhere in the hard selection, because there's a jump here, over there looks like there could be a secret, but no, there's nothing over there. Eventually I went to the easy side and figured out I could interact with this dumpster. It didn't lead to anything, but it made me think, what else could I interact with? Well, I turned around and there was a storm grate, which you can get into, and down there is the secret level. This secret level is heavily inspired by Indiana Jones, which is pretty awesome in its own right. While streaming, it took me about 4.5 hours to beat all of these new levels before I even got to the main campaign, which obviously this does have all of Half-Life 1 as well. Also, all of these maps have their own music from the original games remade. And I think this is awesome. I actually want the soundtrack from this mod to use in my videos. With all of this positive said, I do have two complaints. The first one is that when you take damage, you have a chance to start bleeding. And this is really annoying, because while you, yes, can pick up syringes that you can use at any time, if you don't have any, you're kind of fucked. It just seems like an unnecessary mechanic that shouldn't be in the mod. The next problem is, admittingly at first, very funny, and that's that bodies can block doors, and you'll have to jib them to get through the door. That seems like a minor issue that's just kind of a funny glitch. The problem is, if you don't know this is happening and you walk into a door... This level has been much more difficult than the other ones. God damn it. Yeah, this is gonna happen to you a lot, and I've also had numerous instances where it soft locked me because I actually couldn't jib that body. It was on the other side of a wall and the explosives weren't going through, so it can be a little annoying at times. It's not a mod ruiner by any means, but it's definitely something I would like to see fixed. And yes, I played Half-Life 1 to know that this happens in Half-Life 1, but nowhere near the frequency in this mod. So that's it. That's Brutal Half-Life. I had a ton of fun streaming this mod. I would absolutely recommend it any day of the week. I mean, it's a free mod. Why would you not play it? You surely have Half-Life 1 by now, right? You've beaten Half-Life 1, right? If you haven't, do it. So yes, go play this mod. It is a lot of fun to play through Half-Life in a new way, especially with this much care put into it. Hey, huge thanks to my channel members. They get to see all of my videos early. This one's gonna be released only a couple days after I finished it since I'm recording on New Year's Day. New mod, I wanted to get it out quick. But big thanks to them. If you want to join, I keep it cheap so you can get early access if you wish, and it does help me a lot. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of it, just watching the videos also helps. YouTube's recommending that over there. You have a big playlist somewhere over here as well. Check them out. And if you want to subscribe, click down there. Thank all you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.